Our reporter Alex Perrotet has just returned from a chopper trip to Kaikoura and joins us now from our Wellington studio. Alex, what did you see? You were both in the air above Kaikoura, but you also landed on the ground?
That's right. We landed there at the rugby or the football stadium or the grounds, and I walked up to the hospital. A huge crowd had gathered there. I think mainly people were on higher ground, but B, they were using the hospital's Wi-Fi. So there's this massive group of tourists and locals around the outside of the hospital. I managed to get in and speak to a doctor. And he had confirmed, as well as the fire service, of course, that gentleman had died on the property, and they had rescued two other people from that property, and they had minor injuries only. But there's about 15 other people in the hospital at the moment that are recovering from various ranges of broken bones and other ailments, but they're not life-threatening as far as I got that information from the doctor there. But certainly a lot of people around just very shaken. As you can imagine, many of the tourists who've never experienced any of this before and now are stuck there and really can't get out as they had earlier planned.
Alex, can you tell us about the kind of destruction of buildings in the town? What is Kaikoura looking like?
Well, I didn't move around too much in Kaikoura, and there weren't too many reports of damage, but we stopped at a place called Bluff Station, think about halfway between Blenheim and Kaikoura. To watch the site from the air was amazing. There's a house that was right underneath the fault line. It had moved about 10 or 15 metres, so we went down and landed there. It's a Bluff Station. As Sue and Richard Murray lived there, and there was one man in that house, Simon Waterman, who's an Englishman, and he was just too freaked out really to speak to us. So you could see how shaken he was. He had just returned home at about midnight, and then this house had literally been ripped off its foundations. The ground moved up metres. I mean, you could see where the road had moved, or the driveway, and he jumped out of his window and just dashed right across the property, or the paddock really, to the other homestead. And I mean, it's a sight to behold. We'll be getting some photos of that to you soon.
We're playing them as you speak, and it goes back to what Anthony was saying, the sense that some giant being has just picked up your house and almost tossed it over the Earth's surface, and it's landed somewhere else. It's extraordinary that it really does appear to have moved.
Oh, it's moved all right. I mean, that was just, the house was just in the wrong place. You could see the hillside, the big gap in the land coming down. Further down from there on the main road, 4 or 5 fault lines cutting perpendicular right across the road, and I'm talking gaps of 3-4 metres across and then down. I mean, you can see the whole cross section of the land. I mean, this is going to take weeks to recover, and that's just the state highway south of Blenheim. But coming down towards Kaikoura on the coast, the amount of landslides that are cutting off State Highway 1, the tunnels, we saw that train it's basically halfway in a tunnel, and it's a freight train. But I mean, the people are trapped. You can see a landslip on one head, 4 or 5 camper vans on the beach really, and then another landslip, and those people will have to be airlifted out. But there's a number of those as we went down towards Kaikoura.
Alex, just before you go, we should point out that you are a reporter for Radio New Zealand International, and you have spent a career visiting disasters throughout the Pacific. Have you ever seen this kind of earth movement, this kind of damage that you're describing?
No, I mean, cyclones in the Pacific are a different beast, and the damage there in Fiji this year was much worse, but never seen the earth move like that. And we had 2 GNS earthquake scientists on the chopper, and they said the same. They've just never seen the gaps and the fault lines open up. I mean, obviously 15 kilometres down, but John, you know, I'm an Aussie. I do bushfires, but not earthquakes, and it was pretty horrifying last night.
Alex Perrotet, who was in the helicopter that flew above that coastline, as he described, and in fact landed in Kaikoura, or also having tours of the region, both aerial and doing a bit of landing. Jerry Brownlee and John Keane, they will both join us as the program goes on.